will be discussing Unit 3 of Module Management Accounting and Applied Finance. Unit 3 is regarding analyzing operations. So it is actually offered by CA Australia and New Zealand. In this video, we will be discussing value chain analysis, value-added services, activities, Porter's value chain, very important, outsourcing, make or buy, relevant decision, relevant cost decisions. Let's start with the topic. Value chain and value added. What do you understand by this thing? What is value chain? Value chain is actually, it's a kind of designing process. It's a kind of delivery of a product from the designing product to the end consumer, like designing, manufacturing, shipment, and then retail. So what needs to come together in order for the product or services to arrive the customer? So this is also the value chain thing. And what is value added? Value added is actually, it's what the product brings to the customer. It is a kind of standard feature. Value chain is a kind of different activities to bring any product from conception to the end or to the retail customer. But value added is a kind of feature of that product, like the ABS system in a car, okay, air conditioning in a car. That is a feature, okay. That is a feature actually a customer is thinking that I'm paying for that. If any feature is missing, so it means the cost of that product will be less as compared to the product that have that feature, okay. So this is called a value added. Value added considers that value the product or services bring to the customer, okay. That value that product will bring to the customer. Now start with the other thing. So there are different kind of activities in this value chain process. One is primary activities, the other is support activities. We're just going into the a little bit of detail. The primary activities are actually directly related to the organization's output. Directly related. Just keeping this thing in your mind, directly related. But the support activities are not directly related to the product, definitely enabling the organization to efficiently complete its primary activities and indirectly related to the organization's output. So these are like the primary activities example. So inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, after sales services. Okay. And the support activities are administrative infrastructure, HR management, technology development, procurement. So why we are segregating these two activities? Because if I say in an example, like it's like suppose you have to get an understanding what the primary activity and support activities are before analyzing the Porter's value chain analysis, because that is really important. So you have to understand this concept, primary activity and support activities. Primary activities are actually related to the product itself. Now, support activities are not directly related to the product, but this makes the organization more efficient. Okay. Now let's move on to the Porter's value chain. So in the Porter's value chain, as we have understand that inbound logistics, one activity, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and after sales services. These are actually what we say these activities are. Primary activities. Yes, you're right. Now, what is inbound logistics? Inbound logistics is ordering and receiving of inputs, storing and management of inputs. So inbound logistics is we have to get the raw material in our organization. That is inbound logistics, ordering and receiving of inputs. Operations. Now, when the product has received by our department, our receiving department, then what they do? That comes into the production process. So it is a kind of, these inbound logistics are connected with the operations department so that they can give those products on demand or whenever they needed to the production or operations department. Then when the operations complete, then that thing goes to the outbound logistics. That is called the distribution to the customers include warehousing, order processing, or transportation. So outbound logistics comprises of a couple of things: warehousing, order processing, transportation. So definitely when the product is formally completed, then it's been to dispatch to some customer, some kind of outbound logistics. Now, meanwhile, the outbound logistics is also linked to the marketing and sales. Sales force efforts includes advertising and promotions. So then, meanwhile, when the product has been launched, then we, as a marketing and sales department, has to market that product so that the customers must be aware and they can demand that product. Now, when the product has been bought by the customers, after that, there is an after sales service. After sales assistance for customers includes warranties, spare parts, repairs, and maintenance and technical assistance. That normally happens into that. So these are actually the primary activities. If in any organization these activities are happening, okay, it means these are primary activities. Now, in the bigger organization, there are a couple of more activities happens to which we say are different support activities. Yes. So this is administrative infrastructure. So it includes our professional, includes accounting, financing, legal, risk management, property services, and security. And the other thing, HR management includes recruitment, remuneration, an appraisal system, training, change management, sport, and WHS. So this is HR management. Technology development includes IT and data management, R&D, product and process, equipment design and engineering. Technology development. Procurement includes strategic sourcing of inputs, supply, contract, negotiation, and tendering. So what do you think these activities are called? Are these activities interlinked with these products? No, because these are support activities. What does that mean, support activities? These are not, we say, linked with the primary activities, but these are also mandatory to the organization so that the organization can work more efficiently as compared to the organizations which are smaller and they cannot work efficiently if these activities are not there. Like the sport activities are not there, it means they will not be working that much efficiently as the bigger organization are doing. Now, then what? Because it gives us a kind of little bit cost thing, then we put the margin, assessment of value links to customers' expectations and what willing to pay for. So then, based on that, then that product goes to the customer. Okay. So now let's move on to the next thing. So what is important is that the purpose. What is the purpose of that? What is the purpose of Porter's value chain? The purpose of value chain is preparation and analysis of value chain facilities, cost reduction and efficiency improvements. Okay, where we can reduce our cost as per the primary activities or as per the support activities, where we can reduce the cost. Because in this chapter, what we will be doing, if we know these activities, where these activities are happening, then we can also, as a management accountant, we can also take a decision where any ABC cost is happening, but that cost is a little bit more. So we have to compare it, as we have to make it outsourced or we have to make it within the organization. So this is why the purpose of Porter's value chain is preparation and analysis of value chain facilities, facilitates cost reduction and efficiency improvements. Okay, we will be focused on efficiency improvements. Now there is very important thing that's coming up. What is decision making? Decision making is the act of weighing up two or more alternatives and selecting one course of action. So if there is A and B, which option I will select? Definitely I will be evaluating based on a couple of a kind of framework. I will be asking what is the benefit of choosing A and what is the benefit of choosing B. So I will be a kind of weighing up which one is more beneficial, which one is less beneficial. So I will be choosing which one is more beneficial. So there are a couple of things more. Identify and agree the problem. First of all, you have to identify and agree The problem. What is the problem? First of all, you have to identify and then agree that yes, we have the problem. Now, what we will be doing? Now, identify, based on that problem, you have to identify the ideal solution. What will be the ideal solution and the criteria by which this would be measured? Now, generate possible alternative solutions, because we're not thinking about, in the second step we will not be thinking about the identifying just one solution. No, we'll be thinking about do we have any couple of solutions, so that we can just make a kind of weighing up. Okay, generate possible alternative solutions. What is the alternative to that? Okay, now evaluate. This is very important in this decision making. Evaluate the alternative solutions according to the criteria. Okay, whatever the criteria that you have set, you have to um, evaluate the alternative solution according to the criteria. Okay, and then you have to make a decision. Now this is the fifth step. Are you getting my point? Decision making is not the first step. You just go and just do the decision. No, you have to make a decision at the fifth step. Before that, there are 4 steps that you have to a little bit go through. Make a decision based on the evaluation. Now you have to implement that decision. Okay, the decision making, implement the decision. Okay, now here the decision making doesn't end. It ends on monitoring. What is monitoring? Monitoring is actually monitor the decision. If you come up like, no, this thing is not working, you have to adjust a little bit, or maybe you have to change it entirely. So that is up to you, depending upon the situation where the thing is working. Okay, now keep in your mind, identify and agree the problem, then identify the solution, then generate alternative solutions, then evaluate those solutions that you have previously made. Now the step has come to make the decision, and then to implement the decision. Then you have to monitor it accordingly, according to the policies of the organization. Now, outsourcing activities and value chain. What are the outsourcing activities in the value chain? Like sometimes the activities, that primary activities or the sport activities, that's why we told, we have already explained those activities to you before that. So if any activity is not adding value, then definitely we have to think about it. We have to consider a couple of factors, whether we have to outsource it or we have to still go through that. Have you got my point? So these are the factors that needs to be considered. 1, whether reduce the total cost. Okay, because this activity will reduce the total cost. Improve the efficiency. This will improve the efficiency. Okay. Increase capacity. This will increase the capacity. Okay. Provide access to a greater level of skills and knowledge. It will give us access, give our employees an access to a greater level of skill, so that they can focus on mainly those parts which are really important for our organization. 5th one is allow for greater focus, so that they can focus on that. Okay, have you got that? Why we are doing outsourcing activities and value chain? So these are the factors to be considered why we have to outsource the activities. Okay, now framework for evaluating outsourcing, make or buy. We can say make or buy. So that framework does have 4 questions. 4 questions should be considered as follows. So number 1 is, can the activity be performed or produced at low cost? So this is pretty much previous factors, but we are just making it in a couple of a kind of comprehensive questions, so that you can ask when you will be solving your make or buy decision. Then you will be doing whether that activity that is going to be performed, can we perform that activity in a low cost manner? That's the number 1 question. Now come to the second one. Is the activity a part of the organization's core competencies? If it's the core competencies, then we will continue with that. If it's not with the core competencies, we will leave it. Does the activity rely on rapidly changing technology? Do we have to rely on technology? Because in the technology, we have to incur a little bit more cost. Then the last question is, will outsourcing the activity result in business process improvement? Whether this will result in a business process improvement or not. Now, assessing make or buy decision. Make or buy. Whether we have to make or buy, that is assessing kind of decision. What will be affected as a result of the decision? What will be affected? So this is actually, we say it relevant and differential cost model. What is relevant? Relevant is like actually if we pursue that activity, that cost will happen. Okay, like what cost will be saved and what costs will be incurred under each scenario. Like if I will be pursuing any activity, maybe if I will be any activity in the chain, let's suppose procurement. So whether this activity, what cost will be saved and what cost will be incurred under each scenario. Okay. Now it might be relevant cost, it might be differential cost. Now come to the opportunity. As the opportunity cost model revenue focus, opportunity is a kind of, is the company using its limited resources in the best way possible? As you can understand, this is the revenue focus and that before one was a cost focus. Whether the company is using its limited resources in the best way possible. If not, then we can switch to that. So now the best thing is just a combination of these three. Okay, combining the results of the two model would be appropriate. Now, definitely when we move on to this thing, then we have to consider a couple of more factors in terms of qualitative issues. Quality of the outsourced products. Quality of the outsourced product. Delivery responsiveness of the supplier, whether the supplier can deliver the product and he is more responsive, he can deliver the product, he is, whether he is really reliable, that he can really deliver the product on time. Technical capabilities of the supplier, whether he is enough technical capable of pursuing that activity. And labor relations at both the supplier and organization. What are the labor relations in terms of the rules and whether there are any law that both organizations can be affected of. And financial stability of the supplier, whether the supplier is financially stable. So we have to consider this factor as well. If it's not stable, then it will impact the organization very severely. Ability of the supplier to respect confidential information gained. If the confidential information, definitely when we will be outsourcing the activity, there might be a couple of things that we have to disclose to the supplier. Then whether is he enough reliable so that we can rely on that supplier. If we provide the confidential information, he will not do anything. Impact the outsourcing impact that outsourcing may have on the brand or company image. Definitely, this is a very important topic that important point that we have to think of when we're doing the qualitative issues. Why we are discussing this qualitative issue? Because when in the exam scenario, it might be asking from you within this within the question, it might be of 1 mark or 2 mark. It might be asking what are the qualitative issues that you have to discuss or qualitative issue that you have to mention. So just keep in mind these 7 points and just mention them. Supply chain management. Now, supply chain management involves developing strong relationship between It's from the actual original supplier, and then the organizational internal process, and then pass it on to the customers who purchase the final product. So this is the kind of supply management, supply chain management, so that the product, when we as an organization receive the product, this should come on in our production department within a time frame, and then we produce those products as soon as possible or according to our policies, and then after that it goes to the outbound logistics so that it can be received by our retailer or the final end consumer. Okay, this is a kind of supply chain management. How we manage it? This can be managed by TQM, total quality management, or JIT. There are two methods that can be managed off. Now, we will be dealing with total quality management. TQM is a technique that aims to deliver operational improvement throughout the value chain in order to provide superior products and services to customers. This is about the total quality management. So it's a kind of doing or providing the services up to the mark, up to the standards, so that it should not affect the company's policies, deliver operational improvements throughout the value chain in order to provide superior products and services to customers. So now we have distinguished these things as well. The cost of quality, quality cost, four major categories. Cost of quality, four major categories. One, how can we do that? This is a very important topic that you have. It might be discussed in the exam. Prevention. How can we prevent a cost? Defective parts are not used. Okay, this is the one thing is how can we prevent this cost of that quality? Because if the quality is not met, let's suppose at the end of the department, because before going into the outbound logistics, if we see an organization, there's a QC department, quality control department, that check the quality, and if anything is not going right, then they will definitely not send it to the outbound logistics for dispatch. Definitely, that is a prevention. Defective parts are not used. So what is the thing? When we receive the raw material from supplier, then we have to check the parts. That is a cost, actually. Prevention. Defective parts are not used. Okay. Then appraisal, maintaining quality levels through formal evaluation. That what we do when we will be using our machines, when we will be checking our products, the final products, then it's appraisal. Yes, this is up to the mark, we can send it to the customers. Maintaining quality levels through formal evaluations. Then internal failure, unsatisfactory quality of goods or services before the reach of customers. Internal failure is actually, it is just because of the internal machinery problem, or the QCR department has not been so vigilant to understand what was the problem, or he couldn't be able to, it might be just ignore it. Internal failure is the failure of the organization, that unsatisfactory quality of goods or services before the reach of customer. External failure is the product has been delivered to the customer, then after that it has become to be a faulty after a couple of use, or after maybe not use, after the reach of customer. Okay, now come to the other thing, GIT. What is GIT? In the GIT, we don't need to worry about anything. GIT production involves the purchase of raw materials or finished goods just when needed for production sales. Okay, but in the TQM, what we have to do, we get the goods, we keep them in our warehouse so that we can produce them in our production department, and then after that we keep it our outbound logistics department so that they can dispatch it. In the GIT, whenever our production department requires something, they just order it. Now, control and monitoring issues in the supply chain. Control and monitoring issues in the supply chain. What we do in this thing is how to minimize the risk of failure. Key issues to be managed. There are a couple of key issues that needs to be managed. Supplier selection and reliability is a very important controlling. So this is what we're doing. Actually, we're doing the controlling and monitoring issues in supply chain. How to minimize the risk of failure or the key issues to be managed, supplier selection and reliability, and the relationship with the supplier. Location of the supplier also matters. Quality assurance of the suppliers also matters. So these are the supply chain monitoring issues that can be controlled by opting these four options. If there is any, like what we say, how these are the options that we can use to minimize the risk of failure. The supplier selection, reliability, relationship, location, quality assurance. Now come to the relevant cost examples. So this is very important slide. Just keep in mind, just be focused on these slides. Relevant cost example. Examples of relevant costs for manufacturing organization that is determining whether to make or buy a component. So suppose if we got an order, then we have to do order to make a component. So then what we will do is we'll do a couple of analysis whether we have to make it or whether we have to buy it. We just do a total cost comparison so that we can understand. So this decision we will be making irrespective of the qualitative issues that we have discussed earlier. Now, the cost. What are the costs? It might be direct material, direct labor, variable manufacturing overhead, fixed manufacturing overhead, unit price of product to buy, transportation in, outsourced contract administration. Now, you might be understanding what is that make. When we will be doing just making any product, then we will be considering direct material cost. Yes, it will be used in making. Direct labor, yes, we'll use in making. Variable manufacturing overhead, making. Fixed manufacturing overhead, a part of that it will be used in making. Now, but the rest of the things we will be using it in a buy decision. When we'll be buying, then definitely it might be fixed manufacturing overhead. Sometimes we have to package them or something like that, or doing something fixed cost to keep it in our store. Unit price of product to buy. So that is a very relevant cost to buy the decision. Transportation in, to getting that product from the supplier and into our organization. And then transportation in and outsourcing contract administration. So just keep asking this question when you're doing this make or buy decision, that whether this cost actually relates or relevant to making or buying. Okay, bye for now, and if you haven't subscribed my channel, you can subscribe it. See you in unit 4. That is very important. We will be publishing it as soon as possible.